All right, and we go live in 3, 2, 1. Hey, bud.
What's up?
How's it going?
It's going. I will say that. I've enjoyed the past few weeks. We've been going over kind of advice to parents on teaching their kids about money. So that's been good, going through that, and then work's going well. I feel obligated to give an update on the Suns. I hyped them heavily before, and I've been very excited through this whole playoff run that we've had. So I feel like I have to at least address that it's not looking well right now. As of this recording, it is Monday the 19th. So we are through 5 games of the finals, and so we are down 3-2. It's been a very unfortunate turn since we were up, 2-0, and then to have lost the next 3. But I'll give credit to Milwaukee. They've come out and they've played a lot better. And then also I feel like we have not played our best, unfortunately. For those of you that watched, really it's come down to the last few plays, the last 2 games, and we just have made some really bad plays. So I'm really hoping tomorrow night goes well. That way we can at least hopefully get back into at least a chance at Game 7. Yeah. And I feel like that gives us a chance. I think this will be the tough game. Game 6 in Milwaukee will be really tough to win. So I feel like if we could get past that, it still is no easy task. But Game 7, at least we're at home. So I'm not ruling them out yet, but it doesn't look great. I'll put it that way. So it's definitely disappointing, but it's been an exciting run. And so I'm not going to say, if I think, that we've lost already, but I'll wait until that happens, if it happens for sure. So I'll talk about it next week probably, or I'll be able to cover that more in depth. But that's kind of a little update on how things are going with that. I've been pretty consistent in watching the games, and even Cody has been very nice in adjusting some of our recording times. Like last week? Yeah. Or the week before, I was like, dude, the game's on. And it was on the night we usually record this podcast. And so he was flexible enough where it's like, let's just move it to a different day. I'm going to be thinking about it the whole time while we're recording. So I have been pretty consistent in watching all the games. And my wife will say, she is very nice to let me, just watch them whenever, because they are, it does get pretty long in an evening. And she joked that she has not watched as much basketball in her life as she has this one, the past few months. But she's been very gracious in letting me watch the games. And so it's one of those things. It's like one of the few things I'm like super passionate about. So it's very exciting that I can actually be passionate about something that I love, and like following the Suns. And so it's been very cool. It's been a fun ride. And so I'm hopefully it doesn't end tomorrow. Hopefully at least it ends on Thursday. Regardless.
To let you know, I stopped being a fan for you, because the moment that I started watching the games, they started losing.
Which I appreciate.
I'm not watching the game. Yeah.
Thank you.
I was like, you know what? Maybe it's me. So,
I think the whole Atlanta
Hawks too. So,
yeah, I mean, the whole Atlanta fan base, I think, has some sort of curse on it or something. So I think once the Hawks lost and you pivoted over and were like, I guess I'll start cheering for the Suns, that's when it just tanked. So please jump off the bandwagon. If you
About half of us went to the Suns. I've actually got some friends that were all in for the Bucks. So sorry, but
hope they're not friends anymore. So I'm just kidding. That's right. I have a coworker that's a Bucks fan, and so we just joke back and forth. But it's not. I don't take it that seriously. So yeah. But at least happy to watch my team.
I'm not watching it anymore, so hopefully that goes well for you guys. Yeah,
appreciate that.
So. I had an article I was going to.
Let's actually talk money, or finances. The thing we're actually here to talk about.
I mean, I thought about turning this into like a basketball podcast, but if you'd have seen me last week when I was playing with my church league, I probably shouldn't be doing that.
You'd be kind of. Well, I'm not that great either, so. Probably not the expert basketball minds that you want.
You should watch me try to do a layup. I'll send you a video one day. I'm not posting it online though. I Spare me the embarrassment. All right, let's see here. This is on CNBC Twitter. And I'm not gonna read the article. I'm just gonna tell you the title. The post says inflation's silver lining, higher salaries. And the name of the article is The Upside to Inflation, Rising Wages.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Not sure what to say to that. That's hilarious. Hey, for those of you that maybe hasn't sunk in yet, it's all right. But that's pretty much I'm gonna say stupid. It's really dumb. Just being candid. Cody and I, joked about those sentiments before about like, hey, inflation is, going up, so your wages will probably also go up. So that's a perk. Which makes no sense because at least you're trying to keep up with inflation with your wages, but to have that as the silver lining of being able, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to figure out what point they're making. Like, are they truly thinking that if you'll be able to buy more if your wages increase, even though everything else, the price isn't increasing with inflation? Because like everything costs more, right? I mean, with inflation, right. Things that cost $1 are now costing, whatever, $1.10, $1.50, whatever. So just because you're making more, you're also spending more. So it kind of washes out, or at least it should. But sometimes it's not equal. So where inflation increases, let's say 3%, your wages increase 1 or 2%. So now you're actually making you're making more than you were before, but you're spending way more. That makes sense.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's just what makes it crazy. So the other thing, like maybe they mean like it sounds cool. Like, I don't know. Maybe they think like, oh, I make this bigger number now so I can brag about it. But so I don't see a way where that makes sense. Or
they were just saying it was an upside. Like there's a positive to this. And, I'm just confused. Like, because maybe if they said just wages were inflating, like if you just said that, I'd be okay with it. It's like everything else is the same. The wages are going up. I'd be okay.
Great.
But the inflation rate they were talking about was the overall national inflation rate. So, and I looked at the chart. I mean, the wages were way at the bottom. The things at the top were like car rentals, housing, food, stuff like clothing. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that at you. I'm not quite sure what to make of that.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense because it should go up. Like that shouldn't be a silver lining. It should hopefully match whatever expenses are going up. Or at least that's what you hope. Because to keep things at least, somewhat balanced between, what you were making before versus what you're having increased spending. So it's not really a silver lining. I think that what I was saying, like the only way it's a silver lining is if you just brag about that you have a larger number salary now. Like that's the only way. And I still don't see why that's a flex. Like, I don't know why we're proud of that.
It's like I make $60,000 a year now, but bread costs $5.
Yeah. So boom. Right. Like that doesn't mean anything anymore. Like your money's worth less. So it still hurts either way, even if you're making more. Yeah.
I also saw it was a tweet because there's a lot of going on about inflation because the inflation rate's a bit higher than what the average has been for the last couple of years. I don't know if you've seen the Squidward memes when he's like sunbathing and he like looks to the side as if he's concerned and then just goes right back. And it just says me when I see inflation and the stock market crashing, but I'm a long-term investor. So if you're a long-term investor, really don't mean much to you.
Yeah,
but
you're good.
For all those day trading and everything, the market crashed today as of the 19th and inflation's really high. So if you're one of those people, anxiety's through the roof. But long-term investors, we're pretty cool.
You can go back to sunbathing, Squidward.
Yeah, go back to sunbathing.
You're good.
It's really hot outside. Go back.
It is. Yeah. So I don't know. I have a feeling, somebody's just trying to come up with an article. Good for them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense.
It got clicks. It got a lot of them.
We clicked on it. So
I feel like it should. That's true. I did. I was like,
so you got it. I got you at least.
You got me. Yeah. So at least they got ad revenue from it.
Yeah. Because in no way does that make sense. That's pretty funny.
No. So in other news, we're going to be seeing each other in a couple months.
We are. It's happening.
Yeah. We're finally doing it.
Yeah.
We're going to make it a yearly thing. And then one of these days you're going to move this way.
Or you move this way. So.
Yeah, it's hot out there, man.
Well, it's hot there too. I just stay inside.
That's true. It's really humid. Like it's really bad right now. Like I walk outside and just immediately just pulls a sweat and sweat pockets. And
yeah, well, that's
when
great,
I went out there, I never understood what dry heat meant, but it's like, think of turning into a raisin. That's what it's like out there.
I mean, it's basically the South is a sauna, and out west here it's an oven. It's pretty much comparison. It's actually been, and now we are talking about weather. It's actually been a little humid here because we finally have a good monsoon season. We haven't had one like the past few years where it's like barely rained. So it's actually rained a little bit, which causes moisture to kind of get trapped. It gets humid. It's not as bad as it is there, but it is a little humid here.
Nice.
So anyway, but yes, we are going on a trip later this year. Yeah. We will be seeing each other. We'll see if we bring podcast equipment, or maybe it'll just be a one quick video of us together. But we may see if we can get some content. It's supposed to be a vacation, so we'll see if it is for Cody and I.
Turn it into work or something.
We'll probably will. But so we're very excited about that we'll be going on vacation together. So we'll see if we can get some content out similar to what we did right about this time or that time last year. I think last November. We're able to also make some content together. So hopefully we can do a little bit over there. The trip we're planning is for September. So we're excited about that. Cody is coming out west. And then we're going up to Utah. So it should be very nice. Maybe do some hiking, visit some national parks, stuff like that. But I think one thing we wanted to touch on is just show a little bit of our process in planning for a vacation, as far as setting the funds aside, how we practically go about doing that. Because it is a big expense. I mean, it's something that it's not something that we can... unless it's a cheap, staycation or something, it's not something we can just like, oh yeah, let's go. It's something we have to actually put thought and planning into. And so Cody, I don't know if you want to jump in and share in what you at least, personally are planning for this trip, and how we were able to make it work, with your regular budget and savings and investing planning and how it kind of fits into that.
Right. So usually we don't have like a yearly vacation. What we do, we go with our parents. Sometimes they'll go to like the beach or the lake or something like that, and we'll kind of go with them. So that's like our vacation. But usually we'll go like do a staycation. We'll go to the beach a couple of days. We'll do small little things that usually happens when there's extra income or we save money on something, or just if there's a couple $100, maybe we'll go on a couple of days or something like that. For this was kind of just a spur of the moment thing. And so we didn't save for it. Not like we normally would. So this isn't like a yearly trip that is got a savings account for or sinking fund or whatever. So this was more of a, hey, this is a great opportunity and maybe we should take advantage of it. May not have an opportunity like this in the future. So let's see if we can work it out. I would cash flow this one. We'll explain cash flowing a little bit, but I actually have another trip that's coming up in November in Savannah, Georgia. I'll be running the Savannah Marathon. So, by the way, training started last week and I can't feel my legs.
Well, I'm proud of you. That'll be fun though. And being able to say you ran a marathon, that'll be awesome. It'll be
fun walking, dragging, but hopefully I'll make it.
You'll finish.
But during that week, when I was trying to find a hotel, I had an amount of money in my mind of how much it would be. I was thinking like hotels are like probably like $200 a night. It's no big deal. Kind of had the money already there. I paid for the event, and then kind of started creeping up on me. And I'm like, you know what? It's going to come up pretty soon. So I should probably go and grab the hotel to stay the 2-3 days that we were supposed to stay there. And they like quadrupled in price for that weekend only. And this was like for Airbnb, VRBO, everything. So kind of caught us off guard a little bit, but I'm like, I got to make it happen. may not have another opportunity to do a marathon. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID. This may be it. So we made it happen, found a nice VRBO, and basically used a bit more money than we had originally planned, but we were able to cash flow it. We're actually cash flowing it right now. So this trip was just completely spur of the moment. So we're actually paying for it. It like straight up came up like a week ago. Yep. So we're kind of paying for it with a little bit of cash flow and then some savings. So we thought about, because we have a savings account that's for a down payment on a house. And we thought, okay, let's say we delay the savings goal by a month or 2 or 3 or whatever it turned out to be, to take advantage of this opportunity to, see some family, see some friends, go to Utah, something that may not be able to happen again because the dates just worked out so well with work and school and everything. So like, okay, that seems like a really good trade-off. And so that's kind of why we're able to make this happen, was because we actually pulled out of a savings account from another goal. And I want to say that is okay. That's okay in our eyes, because we kind of figured out what our goals were, and our goals changed just a little bit. There's just a couple months of deferring savings for the cash flow part, and I'll explain that in a second, for Savannah. But then this trip coming up in September was super spur of the moment. And so the idea of pulling savings out of another account, I believe, and you can correct me if you think otherwise, but I think that's okay as long as it's a useful goal, you're okay with it, and you don't have debts and other things that are kind of keeping you back. So that's kind of why we're doing that. We thought it was okay because we don't have any debt. The housing market is crazy right now. Really don't see us buying a house, and we're going to be meeting our goal for the down payment relatively soon, not too soon, but maybe like a little bit less than a year. So we're like, okay, if we don't think the market's going to go down enough to be able to meet that goal anyway, and we're probably going to be saving for another year, probably going to be renting for a while anyway, then what's it going to hurt to delay a month or 2 to be able to take advantage of this opportunity? So it's kind of the thought process that we have for that.
I mean, that makes sense. Like, I am usually a person that doesn't like to do that. I like to say, if I'm setting money aside for something, I don't want to then take it and use it for something else. I want to keep it there, because the temptation will always be, if you see money sitting, that you want to spend it. Like, that's always going to be the draw. So I will naturally be against that. But I think in the exact, specific case that you listed of, hey, this is something we want to do, something we can do. It's not unreasonable. It's not going on a vacation, that's too expensive, or, buying something that you don't need, or something, something like that.
Right.
It's something that's okay. It's moderate. It's not too crazy. It's a limited opportunity. And then also, you can easily fill that money back up after, with your margin. You can just say, okay, next year we're going to really focus in on replacing that and building that back up. So as you mentioned, the timeline may work out where that thing, your goal, you're going to reach it and you'll be fine, within the time. So I just say, thinking about that. And then what are you and your wife, comfortable with? I think that's, if you're comfortable with it, that you can replace that amount, or, build it back up later, then I think it's, it's fine to use that. I would just make sure you've got, the thought process in place of why you're doing it, so it doesn't become a habit, which I know you, Cody, it won't be. But I'm just saying that for those that may be thinking that of like, I'm saving for something, but I want to use it for something else. I usually would say, no, find a different way. Unless you've got some strict guidelines on what you're allowed to move that money for.
Yeah. Yeah. We probably wouldn't do this if we didn't have any form of margin.
Right.
But our margin rate is relatively decent, where I know that would. So if you think about it, I'm kind of just borrowing it a little bit to do something now, but I'm borrowing against myself, really. Yeah. And so as long as I vow to pay myself back, then, we'll be good. And so it's kind of the thought process for that. But yeah, I don't, and it's kind of touchy because it's something that I really don't like doing. And so I don't want to advise like people to do this all the time. Like, let's say you're looking on Facebook Marketplace and you see a car that you like. You're like, whoa, I don't need to buy a house. I've got 10 grand. Let's buy this car. Like, that's probably not smart. But let's say that you've got, a decent amount saved and it has a goal and you're like, there's this thing that's like a couple $100 and I may not get this opportunity ever again. And I've got the margin. I'll be able to refill it, but it's a good deal. And it's something that I need or I want, or is something that, could help us in the future. I don't see why that would be a problem.
Yeah.
But there is kind of like that. What is really, really important to you? Maybe the car is super important to you. Maybe it is the situation that life changed. You got a kid now on the way and goals just changed. It's like, you know what? Buying a house, we're in an area that's probably not going to happen. We might want to revert over here. We might want to get a minivan, just be happy where we're at, and I'm sure that that's the case for a lot of people. So it's really just what is super, super important to you. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of borrowing against something that you've saved for a specific goal. But if it's a little bit, and you've got the margin to replenish it, then I don't think it's that big of a deal. So
yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's totally fair. Yeah, I would just make sure you've got those, restrictions in place. So you're not just going to be, as you mentioned, just see something and then spend that money. And because you worked hard to
have
set
an
that aside.
Accountability partner for that.
Yeah, I think that would be good. So if you've got a spouse, make sure you're on the same page with that. Because I was thinking, like, you worked hard to set that money aside, for whatever purpose you have it, if it's down payment or maybe you're saving for a car or, something like that. So I wouldn't just readily, take from that unless you were pretty confident you could fill it back up within your time frame, that it's for. So I think that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know some people, like, if they've already kind of met their goals, or some people like to have what's called like an opportunity savings account. And I really don't have that, but I've actually thought about doing it. Is where a little bit of margin goes into something that's just for opportunity. And because sometimes good deals do come up. Sometimes things that you need, a deal or an opportunity may come up. Something like once in a lifetime opportunity, kind of like running this marathon, or maybe an opportunity to go to a place you've never been before that you really want to go to. You could potentially be saving for something you don't know what you're going to spend it on. There's nothing wrong with that. And so that's something I would definitely suggest looking into. And it's actually something I'm going to be considering moving forward once we've replenished the current savings account, because I personally would rather keep my savings where it's at and then have something else that I could pull up for opportunity, for something that's even like, we talk about, like, is it okay to buy the dip? Something like that. Like, if you saw a major dip in the market and you may say, it'd be pretty good to throw a couple extra $100 in the market, right? It's a good opportunity. Things are on sale. That could be something you could pull from, is a opportunity savings account that some of your margin goes to. It's something to think about. Something I've been thinking about.
Yeah. Not a bad place. I have heard people do that, of like, just take a little bit of your budget and set it aside. And some people do it for fun. If it builds up, you want to use that for a vacation, or maybe something nice you want to buy, or maybe I've heard some people use that as, like, if a spontaneous need comes up, it's a good opportunity to give, because we may not have a good sum of money that we could just give on any monthly basis. But if you just set aside a little and let it build up, and then when an opportunity comes, then it's there, you can use it and give it to the, whatever need, as you want to. So I think that could definitely be an option. To kind of, it's like almost like an opportunity emergency fund, or, you know what I mean? Or an opportunity fund, kind of say, like, hey, I don't know what's going to come in the future, but there might be stuff I want to do that I haven't planned for. So set aside a little bit for it. I think that's fine. And, you can readily use that instead of having to pull from other savings, down the line.
Yeah. It may feel like the same thing, but for me, it's just psychological, because I've got goals. I've got certain things. In fact, I was going to mention, I used to talk a lot about PayPal goals, which I used to use for my sinking funds, but PayPal, you quit on me. You stopped it. I don't know why you did that. So boo you. And I've got just a ton of money just sitting in my PayPal without goals towards them. And even though it is the same thing, it doesn't feel like the same thing, because I had it all nice and organized. So my OCD doesn't like it. But
we are not going to be, Cody's not going to be sponsored by PayPal. Not that it was ever on the table, but we are not going to accept it. Cody's mad.
Dude, I was trying. I was preaching about PayPal goals when they started that. I was singing their praises, And oh well.
Come on, PayPal.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, Cash App. It's your turn.
Yeah, gotta do it. So speaking of seeking funds, it's how Johanna and I, my wife, have kind of started. That's how we kind of plan for this vacation. And so what sinking funds are is you basically just take a future expense and you divide it into several months. So you may not be able to cover that big expense in 1 month. And so instead, if you just start setting money aside beforehand, when that time does come, you'll have enough. So, for instance, in this trip, we had only been planning this, I think, for the past month, and it really kind of became finalized, the past few weeks. So we just said, okay, trip in September. How much do we think the trip's going to cost? We got flights, food, all the things that we're going to need while we're up there. Any fun things we want to do, any souvenirs, whatever. How much do we think that's going to cost? And then we said, okay, how many months do we have until then? And then we basically divided that one sum total into each month. And we said, does that look reasonable? Can we set that aside each month and make it to, have enough for the trip? And so for us, it worked out. Also, if you do that math and it doesn't work out, like we cannot set this aside every month. I think first off, that's a sign maybe you shouldn't do that thing.
Yeah.
But if it is a big thing that you have to do, like it's a bill or something like that, then that's where, emergency fund, if it's a necessity, or as you mentioned, Cody, if it's absolutely dire, pulling from other savings to cover that quickly and then pushing to refill those savings, hopefully.
Right.
So that could be the way you kind of handle that. But for us, it worked out where we could just set aside a little bit of our margin. So what I mean by that is money that we're diverting towards goals. So this is not any of our investing for retirement that we're doing. That's set. We're not touching that. But this is anything above that. So for us, we actually have the same goal as you, Cody. We're trying to save for a down payment on a house over the next few years. So what we're doing is instead of putting all of our margin towards that goal of, down payment, we're setting aside a portion of that, whatever was equal to what we needed in that sinking fund, and putting it over into this vacation fund. So instead of, just think of it this way, it's pretty much the same thing as what you were doing. Instead of pulling directly from that savings account and paying for this trip, we're just taking a little bit of monthly what we were putting towards that savings account and just diverting it to the vacation fund.
Right.
So really, if you think about it, it's the same thing, whether you take the money out of there and then put it back later, or if you just kind of split it up. But for us, again, the principle, we don't want to touch what we've already saved. So
right.
I'm not trying to shame you for doing that. I think if it works out, I think it's totally fine. But for us, it worked out where we could just take the monthly margin that we have, the extra money, and split it up. So where we still are contributing to our big goal of the down payment, but we also can contribute to the short-term goal, which is the vacation.
Right.
So if everything works out well, over the next few months, we'll do that. And then when September comes around, we'll have enough money in that vacation fund. And then it's kind of set, which is kind of nice. We have a little bit of wiggle room. But that way we don't overspend on our trip. We know how much we can spend. And so we don't want to go over that. And then anything that we don't use, then we can divert to whatever we want. I mean, we can, still do a small trip later and just save that money, set aside for vacation. Or we can divert it and say, all right, we set it aside for vacation, didn't use it. Let's put it now towards back into the down payment on the house. So really, it's a lot of options you could do with it. Really what people use sinking funds for are big bills. So we also do the same thing with like our car insurance. I don't know about you, Cody, but it's cheaper for us to pay, for the whole, like one lump sum rather than paying monthly. So all we do is we pay the lump sum. And then, over the next few months, we just have every month we have a small portion that we set aside. And then when the next lump sum comes around, we've got the money already set there and it pays for it. And we don't have to worry about it. Because like before, we would get these huge, panics when it's like, oh, shoot, the car insurance is due this month. How are we going to pay for it? And then we have to pull from something else, which we don't like doing. So I think if
Right.
you can plan ahead, sinking funds are a great way of just taking a little bit every month to be able to meet those short-term, goals. So
Absolutely.
hopefully it'll work out for us to be able to do that. Again, doing kind of a spur of the moment trip, but still being able to pay for it. We can kind of say cash flow it just from our regular income. We could set it aside quickly and be able to pay for it where we're not having to pull from savings or anything else to be able to go on this trip. And so that's very exciting for us to be able to do that. And still be able to meet our goals, but be able to have a fun vacation.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing that we're preaching is like this idea of financial independence, or we're not really financially independent, but we're financially secure. We don't really have to worry about money right now.
Yeah. And
as long as, we have our jobs.
Right.
And the moral of the story is if you have margin and you have this margin go into goals, you could cash flow to do other things as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you could potentially go do fun things without harming. You may have to delay a little bit, or you may have to, postpone, but you still get to do these fun things while not touching your savings or barely touching them, and then being able to replenish or not touch them at all, and then be able to continue with your savings goals as if nothing ever happened. And then you get to have fun things, which is what the typical American does not do, which is usually throw it on a credit card. Yeah. And figure it out later.
Yeah. And then pay for it after the fact.
Exactly. A lot of travel miles, a lot of other, ideas, points, whatever, of, hey, this is a great opportunity. I may never get to do this again. So let's go into debt and we'll figure it out later, because you only live once. YOLO.
Right.
And, yeah, you do get to enjoy that moment. But it's not going to be fun after that. So what we're trying to say is, hey, there is a way.
Right. You're going to be paying
to be
for
able
it
to have fun
long after. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you get if you get your margin set up where you can meet your goals, you're not spending everything that you're making, got some set aside, it allows you that room to do fun things. And so I hope we've stressed this enough. There are some people that are a little more extreme of like, every penny has to, be used, and you can't have fun until you're 70 years old or whatever, or 60 years old. It's like, okay, if you get things in control, then you have this freedom to do what you want. That should be the goal. Our goal with money is not just to save and invest a bunch of money. That's not the goal. Our goal is freedom and control over what we do in our time.
Mm-hmm.
And so really we can experience a small portion of that now by just having things taken care of. Sure, we've got our goals, but that frees us up where we're not scrambling of having to pay off debt, or, where we're buried trying to climb out. Where if you've got things stable, it allows you room. It gives you a small taste of that freedom of like, yeah, you want to do a trip in September? All right, let's figure out, we can make the math work. Let's do it. Rather than, I think you can do it and put it on a credit card and pay it off later, but it's going to hurt a lot more than what we're doing. So definitely recommend that. Let us know if you have any questions on, what we explained with sinking funds, or just in the whole idea of cash flowing something. Maybe if we didn't explain it well enough, feel free to submit a question. Just reach out to us on social media or through the website. We love to answer any questions, or maybe clarify something we didn't state because I think this is a cool principle and something that could be very helpful on, big expenses that you may have, kind of, things that are a little more variable and not as consistent, like vacation or, bigger bills. And so it could be a really cool thing if you set it up and it works well. I mean, man, you just don't have to worry about it, and it's awesome.
Absolutely. So if you want us to take a look at your budget too, or if you want to say, hey, do you think I could take this trip? Like, we'd be more than happy to look at it, take a look at it for you guys. So again, go to www.willandcody.com. We got a little contact us page. You can ask any question you like. We'll try to answer it. We may even answer it on the podcast if you want, and just try to get you an answer and see where we can go from there. So anyway, guys, we do really appreciate you listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Go Suns.